all the way through, and they're having a good time at the moment, aren't they? Because Villa under Unai Emery, away from home, they've got that spot on, only having lost to Man City, and since Emery took over, Villa are actually joint top of the league for away form. Greg, I don't know whether you knew that.
He knows he's good, but I don't think he quite knows how good he is. When it's not quite going for him, he really puts too much pressure on himself to try and get amongst the goals again, or to try and please supporters. And I think that was going against him.
I agree. I completely agree with you. I'm a bit on the fence with Bardell, to be perfectly honest. I don't think I always see what other people are saying with him, but I agree with you. When he comes off the bench, I always feel like he has an impact, even under Gerrard.
The 1874 show by the Villa View.
Hello and welcome back to 1874, a podcast on the Villa View. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by the Athletic's very own global Gregg Evans. Greg, how are you on this fine Monday?
I'm all right, Dan, thank you. How are you? We've actually got a win to talk about, so that's one positive. And I'm doing all right. I had quite a quiet weekend, but yeah, life's good, mate.
Yes, I've just said to Neil, we did a preview show, not a preview, we did a review show of the Everton game earlier, and the weekend just always feels better when Villa win. It doesn't really matter what else happens in your weekend as long as Villa win. And like I was watching on TV at the weekend. I wasn't there, but I could hear the Villa away fans all the way through, and they're having a good time at the moment, aren't they? Because Villa under Unai Emery, away from home, they've got that spot on, only having lost to Man City, and since Emery took over, Villa are actually joint top of the league for away form. Greg, I don't know whether you knew that. Stato just posted it about 5 minutes ago, but really, in the short space of time, Villa have got a lot right away from home, considering they hadn't won away from home until Emery came in.
Yeah, it's nice for the away fans, actually. They're certainly enjoying it. And I always think the fans that are able to get to the away games, or at least have been going for a long time, are the real hardcore ones, because, you have to pay a lot of money, you have to dedicate a lot of time to going and following them. So yeah, certainly the away fans are enjoying it at the moment. We've been asking, a couple of us, in the media, we've been asking Unai Emery what the difference is away from home compared to at home, and he's actually struggling to put his finger on it. So if you're going to ask me for an analysis, don't expect any great answers, because if the manager...
Unfortunately, I was going to ask you that.
I mean, look, I think my own thoughts are maybe they're playing with a little bit less pressure when they're away from home. There isn't the real expectancy and demanding crowd that are on their backs every time they misplace a pass, or don't get forward as often as the home fans would like to see. And there's also a bit more of a sit back and hit them on the attack, hit them on the counter-attack game plan going on, and it just seems to be working well. I think Villa have come up against some away opponents at the right time, perhaps.
You could that Everton game probably wasn't the right time. Was it?
Not so much Everton, and Tottenham were in a bit of a... I can't remember the exact. They were
in a bit of a tailspin when Villa went there.
Yeah, I think they were struggling, weren't they? But look, let's not take anything away from the players and the manager. They've picked up some very, very good results away at Tottenham, away at Brighton, Southampton, and Everton, and lost just the once under Emery at Man City, which you probably expect most Villa teams were going to anyway. So, yeah, it's going well away from home. The key message that Emery keeps promoting is we have to do this at home. We have to bring this form away from home into our home form, because he wants to see that full Villa Park rocking, and he really wants to get the supporters on side and build the connection between himself, the players, and the team.
There's a few things you've said there that I think are interesting. So, I mean, I do think Villa's home support hasn't been top notch this season. If I'm being perfectly honest, I sit in the upper hole, and it is demanding. If you do misplace a pass, if you do something wrong, it can be quite hostile. I do think that comes from, which isn't Emery's fault, comes from years of underachievement at Villa Park, really. Villa Park hasn't been an intimidating place for opposition fans, for opposition players to come. I think in the main, opposition players would have enjoyed coming to Villa Park over the last 5, 6, 7 years. I'll probably exclude the last season in the the last 2 seasons in the Championship. But in general, in the Premier League terms, Villa Park's been a pretty easy place for people to come and get 3 points. So I think some of it stems from just years of frustration and pent-up anger at home. The other bit of it, I think, is that Emery himself has spoken about trying to play kind of differently at home. he kind of doesn't want to play the same way he plays away from home. At home, he wants to dominate the ball at home. At the end of the day, it might be painful to watch at times, but Villa fans want to see wins. I feel like they've been a bit maybe too expansive in some games at home, whereas away they've got the setup just completely right, and they've got strong results. They can keep clean sheets away from home. Don't seem to be able to keep a clean sheet at home. I'm not sure I don't think they've actually kept a clean sheet at home under Emery. I could be wrong there, but I don't think they have.
No, I mean, if we take away the Arsenal game, because, Villa are up against elite opponents there, a team at the top of the league for a reason. And we discussed this last week, didn't we? We felt that the 4-2 scoreline was a little bit harsh on Villa, albeit, both agreeing that Arsenal were the better team and deserved to win that game. But you take the other games then, the Leicester game was a real disappointment. I remember speaking to Emery before that game, and what he wanted was his team to really attack. And I know that sounds quite basic, but he wanted to dominate. He wanted his team to dominate possession, to control and keep the ball well. Obviously, cut out the threat from the opponents who on the day were Leicester. But the key was our attacking game. Let's go and see what we can do to entertain the supporters, to get them leaving Villa Park happy with not just the 3 points, but an entertaining performance. And he's backtracked a little bit, Emery, now in the last couple of weeks, and said, look, maybe we got a little bit ahead of ourselves. We got excited because we could see the top 10 was in sight. We were just trying to simply build on what was at that point 5 wins in 8, I think. Fair enough. That I think the way he set up the team on that day, it was worth the gamble and worth the risk at that time, because the moment Villa were in. But what they have to do now is learn from the mistakes from that Leicester game in particular. I look back to the Wolves game, and Bailey missed that chance very late on. That could have been very different, and maybe we're talking about a different run of results here now. But I think the Leicester game's the real key for them. They need to learn from that, maybe get back to basics a little bit, and just not have to focus too much on entertaining the crowd, and just mainly focus on getting the win, because the wins are what the supporters want right now, and the wins are what are going to take Villa higher up the league.
I will say, in that first home game, I don't know whether it was just a case of Villa taking Manchester United by surprise that day, but that was what Villa fans want to see. That kind of, it was against elite opposition. Manchester United weren't in a tailspin or on a bad run when Villa took them on, and Villa deserved to win that day. That's kind of what Villa fans want to see, where you've got that entertainment, where you are going at it, but you're also in charge. Villa were good in possession that day. They kept the ball. They saw out the game comfortably. That day, I think they got most things right. The goal that we conceded was unlucky. It was a deflection from a Luke Shaw effort, but we've not seen that since. Like, I think of the Liverpool game at home. I think Villa got it a bit wrong that day. Tried to play too high up against a pacey attack and got caught out a few times, conceded early. Do you think Villa are miles off it at home at the moment? Do you think it's not that far away? No. There's certain things they're doing okay in terms of early goals, going ahead. They've got that down at home. It's the follow-on after that they've not managed to get. So they've got the noses in front a fair few times at home now, with early goals, attacking the whole end, or sometimes I think even going the other way, going to the north stand. But it's after that they can't seem to keep that clean sheet at home, whereas away from home they can.
Yeah, a couple of points just to follow up on that, Dan. I think the Man United game, it was a real clear game plan that worked, and it was helped massively by the fact that Donny van der Beek came in and was very poor, hadn't played very often.
Fernandes didn't play, did he?
No, and obviously they miss him. And Cristiano Ronaldo, which sounds mad saying it at the time, but he seriously let them down in terms of not pressing, and basically hardly moving in the game. That was the last ever Premier League game he played, I think, wasn't it?
Wouldn't surprise me because he was awful.
Yeah, well, exactly. And Villa got the game plan perfect. They were able to build out from the back, and I remember thinking, how on earth has this manager got this set of players to play like this so quickly? Because it was just simple. It was Martinez to Mings to one of the fullbacks, into Kamara, and then out, and then Dina was sort of halfway up the into the attacking, into the other half attacking, and I just thought, how are they getting out so easy? It was an unbelievable plan pulled off expertly by the players. But what we've seen in following weeks was that it's not that easy to do every single week, and the players that Villa have got probably aren't fully equipped to do it without lots and lots of practice. So the Man United game, we could look at that a little bit in isolation. I think because of those reasons. And to answer your question, are Villa miles off it at home? I think where Villa are at the moment is they're a 9th, 10th, 11th place team still, in my eyes.
I'd be happy with 9th, 10th. Let me tell you, top half.
Yeah, look, if they finish there, that's the achievement. That's the aim, and it will be an achievement. But I just think Villa are still that team, so they are going to win a lot of games, but they're also going to lose a fair few. And I know. Again, that sounds like a really basic.
We were saying it this time last year, weren't we?
Yeah, but I mean, I just feel I look at some of the away games that they've won. You know, they've Villa are good enough now to go to Everton and to go to Southampton and play average like they did and win, right?
Yeah.
But they're not quite good enough to go week on week at home winning and playing really exciting attacking football. They're somewhere in the middle where they're going to win and lose games. And I think it's a case of, I don't want to write off another season because we used to do this on the last podcast before we rebooted.
We'll cancel ourselves.
Look, if they do finish in the top half, it is an achievement. But I just think it's a needs must now. Win as many games as possible, get as many points as possible, but know that next year find the real gaps of weaknesses and improve them. And then Villa can start becoming the team that dominate at home, that win regularly at home, and start really pushing that top 7.
Something you said at the start that stuck with me is the fans at Villa Park. I'm not here to dig the fans. I'm one of them. You know, I sit there. I have unreasonable standards sometimes in the whole end or in the away end or whatever. You know, we're all guilty of it. So I'm not sat here slagging Villa fans off. But I do still, I think you're right. I do think Villa Park isn't as easy to play at as it is to go away, because I do think there's a different type of pressure there. But, you know, we've both spoken to players in the past and interviewed players. And if Villa can get that atmosphere right at home, they really do become the 12th man rather than sometimes knocking the team down to 10 men. We've spoken to players that have played many games at Villa Park, and they all categorically say the same thing, that when Villa Park is bouncing, there's no better place to play. I'd love to just know, and I'm never going to be able to do this, and it sounds stupid to even say it, I'd love to just have a season play out where there was just no negativity at home whatsoever for 90 minutes. You just spent the whole 90 minutes getting behind the team and just see how that season would pan out compared to just, just normal. Do you know what I mean? Because I honestly think it makes so much difference when you have a rocking Villa Park. Remember that 10-game run in the Championship? Every week, it didn't matter what players did. Everyone was riding on a crest of a wave. Everyone was exactly on an identical page. At that point, every week you went there just thinking, Villa will win today. I know it was the Championship, it was buzzing. The atmosphere was unreal. The players were singing the songs that the fans were singing after games. Like everything was perfect. I don't know. It has to bounce off each other, doesn't it? So for the fans to be the way I want them to be, there has to be something tangible happening on the pitch that you can get behind. I think because we know we have got the right manager now, I'd love to just see out the end of the season, just everyone just getting behind the team for 90 minutes, no matter whatever happens. And just then go into next season on a real high. Because Villa could still finish top 7, let's say. I don't think they will, but it is there.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at Villa's record in semi-finals at Villa Park, that's what says it all to me. Villa do not lose, really, semi-finals at Villa Park, do they?
We lost to Bradford, mate. There's a horrible bit. We drew the actual. I think we won the actual game.
You won the game. You actually won the game, but didn't win it enough.
There was a horrible thing in the Athletic last week. I don't know whether you saw it. Someone did a piece on Brentford's League Cup run, and I read it, and I was like, oh, God, awful memories about Bradford. Yeah. I'd forgotten this even happened.
Yeah.
It was a haunting.
You lost away, didn't you? It was you lost away 3-1 and won at 2-1, as far as I can remember. So again, right. You know, it was the point I'm trying to make is at Villa Park, Villa win in semi-finals. The games that I've gone to, I remember speaking to Mile Jedinak after the Middlesbrough game in the playoffs, and was that 0-0 actually? But he didn't lose it.
Shut down a Dharma trial.
It was a good tactical plan. Didn't lose. I remember speaking to Jedinak after that game, and you know, he said, did that Villa Park, Villa Park was unbelievable. The atmosphere was incredible. And, you know, you think of Leicester in the Carabao Cup, in the whatever it was then, the League Cup, when Trezeguet scored late on. West Brom in the playoffs. You remember when we spoke to Mark Bosnich and he spoke about 1994.
Mate, actually, 94. There's loads. There's more than that. They're all popping into my head.
There's more, isn't there? You can think of Bolton and Blackburn.
No, but even Bolton, we went to bloody Reebok and lost 5-2 in the first leg, and then we won the second leg 2-0. I think we just needed one more goal. Was it 2? 2-0. So we just needed one more goal. But we won the second leg. We didn't go through again. You're right, though. I don't think.
So that's my point.
I don't think I've been to a semi-final.
Villa
have lost at Villa Park.
When the fans get behind Villa, it's a really intimidating place to be, and opposition players don't like it. They don't like it, and it makes it easier for the players. And I know this because I've spoken to players. I'm not saying it from a journalistic point of view. I speak to enough players and have spoken to enough past players to know that when the fans are on you, and they're booing you, and they're jeering you for and singing bad songs about you or whatever, it doesn't help performance. When the fans are behind you, it does help. Another interview that sticks out in my mind, Anwar El Ghazi, spoke to him a couple of months ago when he first went to PSV.
PSG then. What happened there?
In Holland, and he was saying to me, Greg, when you do this article, can you please include these few little notes from me? He just said that to tell the supporters to get behind the team, because when they get behind the team, it makes it so much easier, and it makes Villa Park a brilliant place to be. And I just, those words sort of stuck in my head a little bit, because I thought that's a player that's played for Villa in the modern times, and has enjoyed a fair bit of success because of the times that they had in the Championship. And he's asking me to sort of relay that back to the fans. So, yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because supporters pay their money. They've got a right to contest if they don't feel like they're getting good value for money, I suppose. And again, you tell me one stadium in the country where teams are losing and supporters are happy. It doesn't happen, does it?
Of course, yeah. No.
But I'd love to follow that, Dan. A season of full positivity, and see what happened.
I think that season, Leicester fans at the moment, for example, are completely miserable. They don't really know where their club's going.
Have you seen where they are? They're only 3 points above the drop. Yeah. I couldn't believe that.
Madison doesn't play; they lose. Yeah. The manager doesn't really want to be there, I don't think, but won't walk away probably because he wants his payout. The club can't afford to sack him because he's on massive wages. So no one's singing from the same hymn sheet. But that season they won the league. They just stayed up, went on a mad run to stay up, and then they won the league. They would have been behind that team every single week. The atmosphere would have carried them over. Now at the moment, Leicester fans probably aren't helping the team because they're miserable. But I do think there's something in it. You're just positive for 90 minutes. Although I just think it's all about that. Crystal Palace, who Villa play on Saturday, I think they've got the best home fans, but they're just having a complete middle of the road season at the moment. So it's not. I feel like
they have been for so long.
Yeah,
they're just always there in the middle.
They're always quite positive, the Palace fans, I think. But it just be some people just again. I'm no saint of saying the whole end. I've said my fair share of absolute rubbish sat there during again. Some people just do go there to get the frustrations of the week out. They enjoy shouting abuse at people, just shouting at people and being frustrated. That is the mentality of some people that go to the football. I've witnessed it with my own eyes many, many weeks, growing up as a Villa fan to now, every single week. But I do think there's something in it. Like you say, the players, they all make a point whenever you speak to any of them of saying what it's like to have a packed Villa Park behind you. And that, the hurt when you do get abuse, how it does affect your game. Connor spoke to us, didn't he? And he said at the time he got kind of jeered off when he was subbed. It was horrendous. Didn't enjoy it at all. Didn't know what to do. Hated it. Tommy Elphick spoke to us about that kind of thing as well. The list's probably endless of players that have been on the wrong end of it.
I mean, I do think Stephen Stillian had it for a time, didn't he?
Yeah, of course. So. There's definitely at the moment. I think every Villa fan, every single one, will know this is the right manager now. It might be a write-off season in terms of probably just finishing mid-table, but I'd love to just see what happens. Let's just get behind them every week at home and try and make Villa Park an intimidating place to come again, because it isn't really, and I'd like it to be.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely not, is it? You know,
No.
I
Too many teams come there and get 3
I
points.
I go to every ground in the Premier League every season, and you know, Villa Park sadly ranks somewhere in the top half, you know, but not towards the top. You know, the supporters can make a big difference.
Yeah, interesting. Who did you speak to after the game, Greg? Who did you speak to in the Goodison Park tunnels? It'll be last time at Goodison, won't it?
Is it? Yeah, we've got one more
Yeah.
season or not? Yeah.
I thought the ground was next season, but they might be
Okay.
relegated to be
Yeah.
fair anyway. So it could be your last time at Goodison.
Yeah. Never really lot. I've got mixed feelings about Goodison.
Here he is, about to say something controversial.
no, I mean, I know this sounds like so snobbish. Is that the word?
Snobbish.
I just feel like the press box is so crap. It's so small and tight, and yeah, I'm just never been a fan going there working.
What's the Wi-Fi like, Greg? What's the best ground for Wi-Fi? That's the big question, because the Wi-Fi at Villa's awful. The signal's terrible
now. I mean, in the press box, it's all pretty good. There's yeah, I mean,
Villa must be the worst. They must be.
No, well, it's all right for us because we have a separate access code. So, but no, Goodison, it's got its charm and it's got its character, hasn't it? And I like the whole pre-match build-up with the songs and stuff. But it's certainly dated now, and yeah, you know, they need to move on, I think, and be interested to see what the next stadium's like. But yeah, I spoke to Ollie Watkins after the game. Who was in very, very good mood. It was good to see him actually, because I spent some good time with him over in Dubai during Villa's World Cup break. Now, when you tend to do an interview sort of after a game, or even before a game, you know, you might get 10, 15 minutes with a player before the game and maybe 5 minutes with a player after the game. But during the World Cup, you know, I had some proper time with Ollie, so it was good to kind of get to know him a little bit more and. You know, find out what he thought his actual, you know, genuine strengths and weaknesses are, and just find out a little bit more about his character, because he's a really like soft and sort of likable guy. I mean, what I took from my chat with him in Dubai was that he knows he's good, but I don't think he quite knows how good he is. So when it's not quite going for him, he really puts too much pressure on himself to try and you know, to try and get amongst the goals again, or to try and please supporters. And I think that was going against him. So what he started to do now is just relax in front of goal. And I think we're seeing it with his goals. You know, 5 in 5. I think he scored his last 4 goals with his last 5 shots. He's developed this, you know, real ruthless streak. He's scoring from all different angles. You know, with his left foot, his right foot, his header, and he's in a good moment and he's happy. I asked him about whether he thought he should be in the England squad, and he kind of just, you know, batted it back very softly and just said, well, look, you know, I've been in the England squad. If Gareth Southgate calls me, great. If he doesn't, I'll spend time with my family and keep hoping for the next one. You know, it was as simple as that. But if he keeps scoring these goals, then he can't be ignored any longer.
Now, the backup to Kane, it always seems to change, doesn't it? Like, it was Tammy Abraham for a long time. Calvert-Lewin had a run at being the second striker. Now it was Callum Wilson in the World Cup. So that space...
Tony's had a little look in as well, hasn't
yeah.
it? Yeah.
That second space does always... Second, third striker space in squads does always feel quite open. I wouldn't rule him out playing for England again at all, but he had no right to go to the World Cup because I think he'd only scored 2 goals. At that point when the World Cup
and that's what he said. You know, that's what he said. His record at the time was 2 goals in 14 games, and he basically said, "Look, next time I talk to you, I want my numbers to be much higher and to be respectable and to be worthy of being an England player again."
And they
so
are.
He knew it, and yeah, they are. And he was in a great mood. One thing I took from him actually, he's taken 8 penalties in his career. But he's now scored 4 and missed 4. I think he missed 3 for Brentford and 1 for Villa.
West Ham
against West Ham. Yeah. So he said he's been working on his technique in penalties, whereas when he was at Brentford, he never practiced penalties or worked on them. So that's a new thing for him.
Well, he's Villa's main man now, isn't he? Undisputed. He's Villa's main man. He scored for 5 games in a row. Nice for him that, you know, to get the winner on Saturday, because the goals he'd scored, Villa hadn't really been performing, so his goals hadn't really meant anything other than the Southampton away winner, because he'd scored in three defeats. But, you know, to score 5 in a row for any Premier League striker, not many Premier League strikers do that. I mean, that tells you that they don't by the fact Villa haven't ever done it in the Premier League. You thought Dwight York or Benteke maybe would have done it at some point.
Yeah.
They probably did 3, maybe 4, but no one had done 5. So it's a great achievement for him. Sounds stupid, but Gabby won't appreciate me mentioning this. He doesn't like to go on about it, Gabby, but he is Villa's record Premier League goal scorer, isn't he? Watkins might be looking at that now and thinking, I don't know whether he knows about it. It's kind of there for him to get now in his 3rd season. He has a good end to the season and he's there next season. A decent chance he gets somewhere near that record, I would say.
What did Gabby get? 70 something?
I knew you were going to
74?
ask me that, and I don't know. It was around that. I was going to say 72.
Got a feeling 74 sticks in me, Jay. Probably should have. We'll check this for next.
It's in the Premier League. It's around 70 odd in the Premier League, I'm sure.
We'll check the exact number for next week. And I think Ollie's on what, 36? Is it or something like that?
He's got double figures every season.
Yeah, I think he's on. I think he's mid-30s. So yeah, he needs a really good season at some point, doesn't he? How long will he stay at Villa? Will he be the main man next season? What will happen in the summer when Villa sign a high-level elite striker, which they will do? Will he end up?
They say they will do, right? And I've no qualms that Villa will go for one. I think they'll try. There's no guarantees they get one though. We know that they've been in for or been interested in elite level strikers in the past 2-3 transfer windows, and they've not got them in. So there's no guarantee. Villa thought they'd signed a bona fide goal scorer in Danny Ings. Didn't really.
Yeah.
Well, Carl, I take what you're saying. I agree with you that Villa will look for an elite level striker. But if they don't get an elite level striker, what would they do? I'd imagine they stick with what they've got. And just because they sign one, I would also say, I don't think that means Watkins comes out of the team at the moment. You kind of felt like Watkins and Ings were never going to play together under Emery, even if they were both there. But if we sign another striker, I would think they'd play with Watkins because of the way he plays the game.
Yeah,
wide.
I mean, the obvious replacement is a new striker comes in and takes Leon Bailey's place, isn't it? At the moment,
Absolutely.
Villa are looking at one of those, and Emery, when you look at his teams in the past, especially with Villarreal, he likes those sort of 2 forwards in a 4-4-2. That's what Villa are looking at now. They're looking at a auxiliary striker. Is that how you pronounce it? Is that how you describe him? Maybe someone who can play
a proper number 9. That's how I say it.
But I think you're going to see a proper number 9 type figure coming in for probably a lot of money.
But again, I'm repeating myself here. There's no guarantees you just go and get one.
No, look, of course, there's no guarantees.
You
look at Villa's history.
Elite level number 9. That's the term you're using to me.
Villa are going to target an elite level number 9 this summer. So whether they get that man or not remains to be seen. If they get that man and he performs, then great. If they get that man and he doesn't perform, then Ollie Watkins is an incredibly good backup, or an incredibly good alternative if he's not scoring the goals and Villa needs somebody to rely on. I still think whoever they sign will play as a 2. You've also got John Duran in there as well next year.
Yeah, perfect.
And Cameron Archer, who will probably come back, hopefully with 10, 9-10 goals under his belt and compete as well. So the striker department will look a lot stronger next summer.
Yeah, I'm repeating myself, I take your point, but surely Villa targeted an elite level 9 in the summer just gone. Surely Gerrard wanted his own striker. Is what I'm saying. They couldn't do it. They didn't do it. They didn't get anyone in. So there's no guarantees with that. Is what I'm saying, because Villa have targeted high level players, haven't they?
I'm not sure.
You mentioned. I know he's not. I know
all
the
transfer windows all believe it or not, fall into one in my head these days. But from my memory on the spot, I don't think Villa were in for a striker over the summer. They had Ollie Watkins, Danny Ings, Cameron Archer, and
I can't mention it, but I remember you throwing a name at me in the summer.
Leon Bailey.
I definitely remember you mentioning someone, and who I would describe as a high level elite number 9. And he's not.
I can't remember that Villa ever got. As far as I can remember, Villa never got far down the road with anything. They might have considered.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
That's player, but I remember a point where I had conversations with high place sources at the club who clearly said to me they were happy with the front 6, which at that time was Buendia, Coutinho, Bailey, Archer, Watkins, and Ings.
Okay. I'll talk to you afterwards. I remember you. You're right though. I don't think the name you mentioned to me ever got anywhere. But I remember you mentioned it because you also said like in January just gone. I know he's not an auxiliary number 9. Villa Felix. You mentioned him the first show we did here. You mentioned João Felix. What I'm saying is Villa look at high-level players. I don't think people realise that Villa actually do look at the high-level players. They might not ever be realistic that they could get one in.
Memphis Depay was another one.
They always try, don't they? They always try to get the high-level player in. They might not be able to do it, but they've got ambitions to do it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course they have, but there are players that they just were not able to get. Felix and Depay both wanted to go to high-level clubs, and Villa were not that club at that time.
Yeah, interesting. It's always interesting. I do enjoy talking to you in January and August. I enjoy talking to you all year, but I particularly enjoy talking to you in January and August when you fill my head with things that I think that Villa might be able to do. But no, it's great for Ollie Watkins. I like. He's a likeable character, Ollie Watkins. I've interviewed him once. He just comes across as a nice guy, a likeable guy, and I think he's been better for Villa than he gets credit for, in my opinion. Where would you rank him in Villa strikers in your time covering Villa? I can't remember exactly when you started covering Villa. Actually,
I still think Benteke was right up there. He's probably one of my favourites. Tammy, even though it was in the Championship, was excellent. And there's been some bad ones, to be fair.
We could do a whole show on the bad ones. Let me tell you. You missed Dwight York, didn't you? You missed him. He was the best one.
He was before my time. I was still at school.
Yeah.
I think I'd put him third behind Benteke top, Tammy second, and Ollie third.
You'll be getting a phone call from Gabby Abon, or you will. We're classing him as an out bona fide number 9. He probably isn't. He's probably more of a wide forward as well. Gabby in there. No, but that's interesting because I'm trying to think where I would put him in the time since I've been going down. So for the last 30 years, obviously, I've been sat in the hot end. You always look back at players after they've gone. So I find it hard to judge him whilst he's still there because he may go on and score loads of goals for Villa in the next few seasons. But I remember that first season under Dean when he first came in. He looked the real deal in that season to me. He caused teams a lot of trouble. And the thing I like about him is, and I know he scored against Everton at the weekend. He scores against the big teams. Got a great record against the big teams.
14
Chelsea
goals against the so-called top 6.
Yeah.
That's
the only ones he hasn't scored against is Chelsea. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Chelsea's the only one.
Villa might even finish ahead of Chelsea.
Scored a hat-trick against Arsenal, a hat-trick against Liverpool.
He scored 2 against Arsenal, didn't he? But he scored 3 or 4 over time against them.
Yeah.
He scored against Man City a few times as well. Just said Villa might finish ahead of Chelsea, Greg.
I just as a Solihull lad, I feel a little bit sorry for Graham Potter at the moment. I just feel, a manager who's really deserves his crack at the big time. He's not somebody who's just, and I get a bit frustrated when ex-players who have had a brilliant career get promoted into the media straight away or into high-profile jobs when they perhaps haven't quite done their time in the trenches. But Potter, he's been there. He's gone abroad and he's worked really hard fully down in the trenches, learning his craft, and he deserved it. And it's sad for British managers, I think, if he does lose his job, because there aren't English managers, because there aren't too many of them. You look back to the last English manager that won a cup competition. I think it was Harry Redknapp. So it's not great. In England, it's not great, is it?
I think Brian Little might be in the last 3. So the
1196. Yeah, he can't be too far away.
I think he is.
So yeah, it's not great for him at the moment. He's looking, looks really down, and I'm not feeling too sorry for him. He's a well-paid football manager in an unbelievable job, and I'm sure he's not going to struggle for work elsewhere. But look, when these managers deservedly get their time, you want them to do well. So I still don't think Villa will finish ahead of Chelsea.
We've turned into the Chelsea podcast. My original point was, if you'd have told me Villa would be level on points with Chelsea at the end of Feb, I'd have been like, here we go, top 6 here we come. But no, middle of the table for Chelsea at the moment. Just look at that, man. Their squad's just ridiculous. As someone said on Sky yesterday, imagine having to arrange a training session with all those players. It's impossible, isn't it? I don't think anyone could do that at the moment. You should have the summer, because it's not fair. It's not really right what he's going through at the moment. You've released a piece today, was it last night on the Athletic? I only read it today on Emiliano Buendia's impact, and I've got to say, Greg, I think I agree with you. think I agree with
Wow,
what you say.
this is unusual.
Yeah,
I thought this article would cause a little bit of a stir. I thought
no, I
it.
think I agree.
Backlash from it with people because Buendia is very much a fan's favourite, isn't he? A lot of fans don't like anybody saying anything negative about him. And while this article wasn't negative because he came on and made a big impact as soon as he came on, Villa scored their 2 goals. The second one was from him, of course, as well. I've picked up a bit of a thing that I think he comes off the bench to better effect than when he starts. Now, he's only missed 1 game under Emery, and that was this weekend. I asked Emery directly why he didn't play, and he said, well, he was complaining of an injury which kept him out of Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday last week of training. But by Thursday, he was 100% ready to play. So Emery was a little bit of we couldn't fully get to the bottom of why he didn't play, but it seemed like Emery was just saying, I didn't think it was the right thing to do for him to start. I thought perhaps play the midfielders that started, go up against Onana, Decore, Garner, keep the game as tight as we can, and maybe if we need Buendia, we'll bring him on later to add that creative spark when there's some tired legs in there. And if that was exactly the plan, which I think it was, it worked really well. Now, I don't know what happens now on Saturday because there's no Coutinho.
Do you think Coutinho would have started if he'd have been fit? I think he
Yes.
probably would have done, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what happens on Saturday because no Coutinho. Bailey, with that kind of performance, I find it so hard to think how he can start again. And it just feels like a game that would work well for Buendia because also it doesn't feel like Emery's quite ready to start Duran yet. So it seems like, the most obvious answer is that Buendia will start again. So just take a look at him in the first 30 minutes or 40 minutes and see if he makes a real big impact. And if he does, excellent. I thought he was great against Leicester. I thought he was really good in the Brentford game where Villa won 4-0 under Aaron Danks, the caretaker manager. But there aren't too many other games that I can remember where he's really grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and dominated it. And that's what we wanted to see more from.
I agree. I completely agree with you. I'm a bit on the fence with Buendia, to be perfectly honest. I don't think I always see what other people are saying with him, but I agree with you. When he comes off the bench, I always feel like he has an impact. Even under Gerrard, I felt like, usually to be fair, when he was coming on under Gerrard, Villa would have been absolutely terrible for an hour. And you could always guarantee that Emery Buendia's name would be sung after 60 minutes and he'd be coming on. So he was coming into a setup that wasn't doing well and always looked quite bright. I do think there's something in the fact that you can make 5 subs now and having starters and having finishers. To me, I just feel he's more effective when he comes on with 30 minutes left and the space starts to open up a little bit more as the game goes on. I feel like he has more of an impact. Because I'm saying, I've said on another show that for what we spent on Bailey and Luca Dean, we haven't really seen enough for the money that we paid for them. I'd say Buendia probably, even though he's got a nice song and he looks nice at times, I think Buendia probably falls into that category as well. I don't think Villa have seen anywhere near the best of Emery Buendia.
I mean, no, he's got 4 goals this season, 0 assists. A little bit unfortunate with the assist tally because he has created the most chances for Villa and the best quality chances as well.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. A couple of stats that I picked up just as well, when I was looking about his performances are he tends to have a similar amount of touches and tends to make a similar amount of progressive passes, which are longer than 10 yards forward. When he comes off the bench compared to when he's starting. Now, when he comes off the bench, he typically gets 30, 35 max minutes. Yet when he starts, he's playing 65 minimum, 70 minutes perhaps. And he's having a similar amount of touches. I just don't, no real correlation there to say why is that happening then? Which brings me on to the point of he's a better substitute for me. And my naked eyes have seen that.
Yeah, I think the problem with Villa at the moment is they've not got the depth to probably have him as a regular sub. He probably is in Villa's best 11 because there just isn't there isn't really the depth. I'm not saying that there's plenty of things I like about Emery Buendia. I do think he's slightly. I'm not saying what other Villa fans are like you. I'm not really seeing. He's very highly rated amongst the Villa fan base, and I think Villa have got players who've done more, who aren't as highly rated. But I guess it's just because he's a creative number 10, isn't it? That's his position. Sorry, and those players are always easier on the eye and always look better. But Villa do need more from him. They definitely need more from Leon Bailey because I'm with you. He frustrated the life out of me again. on
Yeah.
Saturday. And I've defended him most of the season, and his numbers on the face of it are pretty good, but the eye test, just running into people. Me and Neil were saying earlier, if he gets off to a good start in a game, Leon Bailey, like he scored a few early goals, hasn't he, in front of the whole end at Villa Park. If he gets off to a good start, he has a good game. But if his first few actions are no good in a game, that just seems to be the story of the game. It just continues. It's almost like his confidence. I don't think it's lack of effort from Leon Bailey at all. I don't think he's not trying. I just think sometimes, for whatever reason, if he doesn't start a game well, that's it. That's the end of it. Do you echo that?
It's interesting you should say that, and a good point to prove something I haven't noticed personally, but I'll definitely start looking at it. Yeah, I'll start following that up and seeing if there is any difference between a good start or a bad start and then a good or bad performance. Yeah, I'll definitely look at that. Thanks.
I can't think of any other players where I've thought this about them, but I definitely think it about Leon Bailey.
An interesting one. I mean, if I ever get time to ask him, if I ever get some time with him, I'll maybe try and ask him.
He comes across well. He comes across a nice guy, and I don't think it's lack of effort, like I said, but it's just for whatever reason, there's too many frustrating games at the moment where he just runs into cul-de-sacs.
There was one. I felt a little bit sorry for him actually in the game at Everton. I mean, not for his performance because that was pretty poor, but the one time he really put himself about, and I thought won the ball without fouling. He was punished for a foul.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I didn't think that was a foul either.
He just showed his strength, and I thought it's typical. The first time he really gets involved, and he gets punished for it. But yeah, he needs to do more. I think he scored 4 goals and set up 2, which isn't too bad. But he needs to be doing a bit more. I think
£30 million plus. You need a bit more money from you for your buck.
Yeah,
that's all of the players Villa have spent that on. I would say.
Yeah. If you're relying on him as your other forward alongside Watkins, yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I've noticed you've got a bit more statistical recently. Got a bit more stats involved in your article. You've changed.
Have I?
Yeah, I've noticed. Last couple in particular. Watkins and Buendia, the last 2 articles you've done.
Okay.
You've got a bit more stats based, Greg.
I think what I'm trying to do really is if there's something I pick up on, I'm just trying to back it up a little bit more rather than just saying, Gregg Evans thinks Emery Buendia is a better substitute.
Yeah, fair.
I try to back things up with stats to prove my point. And then, I'm not always, it's not always yes, I'm right and other people are wrong. I'm happy to have the conversation. And that's what's great with The Athletic, because on the comment section, we can share.
Yeah, I like the comments.
Share thoughts with each other, and pick up a lot of good points as well from some of the subscribers, because they have slightly different opinions, and then just like what you've said with Bailey there, that's something I hadn't really noticed, but I'll have a look at that now in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, I do think there's something in that. Genuinely.
It's just good to share opinions, but yeah, no real push on the stats, but just to back up stories.
I like the stats. Obviously, the Villa View's got a stats show now every Friday. I feel like everyone's getting a bit more into the stats now, and I've just noticed you doing it as well.
I don't want to get too carried away. God, no. I'm not a massive stat man.
No, that's what I presume The Athletic have got people doing that.
They've got
stats people, haven't they?
We've got
one of them went off and worked for Leipzig, didn't he? He was the Athletic stats man, and now he works for Leipzig in their day. So I find that absolutely incredible. That is absolutely fascinating.
I mean, stats are very much the way forward, but look, there's an old school element to football still, and I don't want to lose that totally.
No, you are old school.
I'm glad you said that.
If you're a football manager, you'd be Steve Bruce.
I am happy to be old school.
I've
never been a gamer. I've never played Football Manager. I've never played the PlayStation. I get out, I play football, I go to the gym, and I go to golf.
That is your, and you get your hair cut. That is
I still haven't had it cut.
Not at the moment. I get mine done every bloody week at the moment. I'm worse than Mika Richards at the moment with my hair. Just before we go, have you got anything coming up? I know you've got one thing coming up that you can't talk about that you told me about the other day that is right up my street, right up my alley. That one.
Can't talk about it. I just want to make sure I can get it done before in time. It's a very, very long.
I like the long reads. They're my favourite ones, the big ones.
Yeah, I try not to do too much of it because subscribers tell me that they want digestible stories and they don't want to spend too much time on it. But every now and then we throw a big one in there, and I'm hoping this week we can get it done.
Will it be this week? Oh, that'd be nice if it is.
So.
I look forward to that. Yeah, come on, Greg, get that out. I want to read that. I'm really excited by that one.
I'm trying.
Let's go. Let you get back to your old school regime. Greg with his meat and 2 veg for dinner. I imagine doing things properly in his house. Thank you very much for chatting to me this week, Greg. Nice to talk about a win as well, because we haven't been able to do that since we brought the show back. Don't forget to like and subscribe and all that jazz wherever you get your podcast. I'm going to push Spotify again, because I think we're doing that work last week. I think we've got more Spotify views than we have done previously. So if you want to watch the show on Spotify or listen to it, we're on there. Do it, because Spotify might be your preferred method of digesting podcasts. The Villa View is back tomorrow night. I'll be joined by Neil Cutler live at 10 o'clock to talk through Villa goalkeepers past and present, which I'm looking forward to doing, because Cuts is a nice guy, and I haven't done anything with him before, and I've been looking forward to it for a while. So yeah, big Cuts will be on. We'll do it live. You can ask him some questions as well. Greg, you might even tune into that, won't you? So you can get anything for some of your pieces in the future. I'm sure we'll talk about Emi Martinez at some point during that podcast. It would be a surprise if we didn't. Yeah, so watch out for that. Thanks ever so much for listening to the 1874 show, Up the Villa.